Welcome to my channel and welcome to the Save the Crafty YouTuber video hop. This hop was put together to support many of the crafty YouTubers that work very hard behind the scenes to bring us creative content, and hopefully this will allow them to keep doing so. So please make sure that you consider subscribing to any of the channels that inspire you, and don't forget to go ahead and comment down below because there are many sponsors who are giving away prizes. Just make sure that you specify if you are a U.S. resident or an international resident. On my channel, I will be giving away a $25 gift certificate to Brutus Monroe's online store. So let's get started with the card. Today I'm using the Stamp and Die set by Spellbinders. Now this set is part of their Inked Messages collection and it's designed by Stephanie Lowe. There's some really gorgeous images in this collection and I hope you'll go over and check it out because I just love pretty much everything in this collection. The Stamp and Die set that I'm using today is called Rose by Any Other Name. It has this beautiful flower and this an image of a girl. I'm just using the flower today. I wanted to make a monochrome background. So I'm putting this cling stamp into my MISTI and I just pulled out my foam piece that's in the back of the MISTI because when you're using a cling stamp you don't need that foam piece in the back because the cling stamp already has its own foam mounted on it. So you need a little bit more room to get a good impression. So just pull that foam piece out in the back and go ahead with your stamping. So I'm using my embossing ink, my Versamark embossing ink, just inking up my stamp, and I'm going to be stamping this flower and trying to be doing a pattern on the back of this cardstock. Now I wanted to just do a pattern and emboss it for a background, which I did on this piece of cardstock, but then I decided to go a little bit different direction, and you'll see that in the video how I changed it up a bit. But this is the pattern that I stamped. I'm going to go ahead and emboss it in my Brutus Monroe Raven Black embossing powder. Now this powder is nice and fine. You'll get a good embossed image even if you have a stamp that has some really detailed lines on it. Just before you go and emboss, I would suggest using, like I did, an embossing bag or an embossing powder kind of thing. Rub that on your cardstock. That's going to help cut down on static cling and help your embossing powder to not stick where it's not supposed to. So hopefully it will only stick to the lines that you stamped. So I got a pretty clean embossed image for this card. I'm embossing my background, as you can see there, and I really love this embossing powder. It melts very well. It does great on these fine lines and it has a really nice shine to it. Hopefully you can see how shiny it is in the light here. So I'm just using my heat tool and making sure all of these images are embossed and all that powder is melted before I go and I move on with the next step. So I really did love this monochrome background, but like I said, I decided to go ahead and switch it up a bit. So I used the dies from this set and I die cut out some of those flowers. Now it's not the whole image. Some of them got cut off a little bit, but I kind of liked that because I can adhere them down to the edge of the page and it makes it look like my images are kind of continuing off my card. So I want to pop these images up with a little bit of dimension using some foam adhesive. I thought that was just a little something extra, a little something to kind of make background stand out a little bit more by adding some dimension instead of it just being all one layer tone on tone, which looked fabulous, but I decided to do something a little bit extra to give it a little bit more interest. So I'm just pulling off the backers of this foam adhesive and I'm lining up my images and I'm going to adhere them all down sort of on the edge of my card. Now I'm going to keep the sentiment very simple. I'm just using this Hello die, and this is from Brutus Monroe. I cut it out of some sort of shimmery white cardstock that I believe I got from Canvas Corp Brands, and I'll try to find that and link that down below if you're interested. I'm trying to figure out where it looks the best, and I decided I wanted to adhere it on the bottom part of the card. Now since I am adhering this sentiment down over a flower that is on foam adhesive, I have sort of an issue with the height, so I need to make sure that the end of the sentiment is popped up where the front of the sentiment is glued down. So I need to put a little bit of foam adhesive on the L and the O to pop it up. And then I'm going to be using some liquid adhesive on the first few letters of this sentiment. So when you're using foam adhesive for very small die cuts like I'm doing, it can be a little bit tedious and a little bit of a pain to cut such tiny strips. But if you find you need to use a strip and kind of need to bend it and mold it to fit onto your die cuts, I would suggest pulling off the backer first, because that's going to help you bend that foam adhesive easier than if the backer is on. So that's just a little tip that you can keep in mind if you're doing a little bit of this tedious detail work like I chose to do here. So I have my foam adhesive all adhered down to my sentiment, and I'm going to be using some of this craft glue by Brutus Monroe. I'm just trying to put on a tiny bit here behind my die cut. I don't want too much, and I probably used more than I needed anyway, because a little bit did kind of squish out the sides, but it dries clear, so it was alright. But you really don't need a whole lot, just a few little dots would probably hold it fine. So I'm just trying to position it where I want the sentiment to go, and just gently pressing it down. I did get a little glue coming out the sides like I mentioned earlier, but since it dried clear, you don't really see it after it's dry, and it worked out alright. So this card is pretty much done. The last thing I wanted to do is add some sequins, and I did that with a little bit of glossy accents. I have my glossy accents in a little bottle with a fine tip applicator, and I really love this bottle. I would suggest getting one if you could, because it has made using glossy accents so much easier. My bottle before was getting clogged all the time, and I would just choose not to use it because I didn't want to deal with unclogging the bottle. So I really love this little bottle that I put it in. So I'm just adhering down all of my little sequins. I think it just gives a little extra bling to this monochrome card. And then I didn't catch it on camera because my camera died just as I was done with this card, but I did add a little bit of white twine at the top as well, tied it in a little bow, and that finished off my card. So thank you so much for stopping by my video on the hop. I hope you enjoyed it, and please make sure you go down to the description box below and click on the link to the next video. So thanks so much for watching. Good luck with winning some prizes, and I hope to see you again in the future. Bye.